I got not one, not two, but three special guests I'm bringing in for this video, and they are one of a rare type of people who have actually played DC20 at a table in person with me at GaryCon. These are people in the final playtest of GaryCon that I did, and man oh man was this one crazy. And these three players, the fourth player was Luke Hart from the DM Layer, so that was also a fun mix into this whole thing. But I got these three players, and I really wanted to stop and talk and ask them about DC20 RPG. What were their favorite parts? What they think about some of these things that I have made videos about or I haven't made videos about. Because I'm going to interview them and see what they thought and get the real unfiltered opinion about this whole thing. And there's a whole bunch of little secret nuggets that are going to be released all along the way here that I will be doing future follow-up videos on. And if you're interested in this whole DC20 RPG movement and everything and you want to support it or just check it out, links below or down in the description. Because you patrons are the ones that make this whole thing possible in the first place, and I couldn't do it without you. So thank you for that. But now let's get into the video. What's up, guys? Welcome, because you guys were my playtesters, one of the few people who have playtested DC20 RPG in its early alpha stages. What did you guys think? Welcome, and what do you think?
Who wants to start?
Speechless.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
It's
Speechless.
so good.
Total silence. I mean, so many things about the DC20 playtest that we got to be a part of. So the thing is that I had to I didn't drag my friends to this, but when I saw that your name was as part of, you were going to do this, because I've been following along on Patreon and such, and I really had no idea what you were cooking up. And, you know, I've been saying to a lot of people, it feels like a lot of post-OGL teams have been kind of doing variations on 5e, which is also great, and I'm sure they're going to be amazing. And to sit down with you that night and to discover that, no, man, I'm doing my own thing from start to finish. Right. It's beautiful. It's really...
I appreciate that.
That was more exciting to be even more exciting than I had thought it was going to be.
Well, and I think we said this earlier then too, is I initially, I did not purposely say I'm going to be as similar to 5e as possible, or I'm going to be as different from 5e as possible.
Right.
I just wanted to make the best TTRPG I possibly could and truly go outside the box and not be constrained by the rules to have to do certain things a certain way, because that is what 5e is.
Yeah.
And as I kept developing it and things kept coming up, hey, actually, this would be a cooler way to do it.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Oh, and this. Oh, and that lets us, oh my God, because we did this, now we can do. Yeah, so it's been cool to see all of that.
Yeah.
So I am going to go around the table and ask each of you, table, I feel like we're still at that same table.
I wish.
I'm going to ask each of you what your favorite one rule was. If you had to pick one, what was your favorite thing that stood out? Because some of these things y'all say might not have been released in videos up to this point yet. So what do you say? Who wants to lead it off?
I'll go so that nobody steals mine.
There you go.
Right,
okay.
Before I get to it.
I like that.
I think I might know what yours is, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, it is between two, but I think that the prime ability score and the malleability of that is my favorite change, because as an obsessive character creator builder person, being able to have
Right.
a lot more flexibility with what you choose race and class wise and ability score wise, you've just like completely opened up the amount of options you can go for.
Right. And so what Fitz is talking about is, in general, the super quick rule on that is whenever you have 4 attributes in the game and you put your stats in there like race and all that kind of stuff, sure. And then you end up with your certain stats, which is going to range and whatever. Your prime attribute is your highest of those. And with that, it's your attack rolls are made with your prime modifier, spell casting's made with your prime modifier, all the stuff you do in combat is made with your prime modifier, so that lets you be able to slant towards roleplay and pick charisma, slant towards quick and nimbleness and pick dexterity. Because I think your honey cleric, your cleric named Honey, was a dexterity or agility based. Okay, yeah, and it was cool because you're like quick and small and all that kind of stuff, and that's kind of the flavor you want to go with it. And you weren't held back for that for roleplay or combat purposes, because all the stats matter in both roleplay and outside of. So super cool that was, I was not thinking that was going to be what you said. So I was completely wrong. That's cool. I love it. Who's next?
I loved the heavy and the brutal damage because I'm a combat gremlin. And so, like, sometimes it's disappointing, right? When you have a really, really good roll, and it doesn't actually matter in D&D if you rolled a 12 or a 20 sometimes. Okay, 20, it does matter a little bit. So 12 to 19, right? But I like that, it was kind of tethered to the rolls, so that way I could actually truly celebrate if I got in a hit that was just...
Yeah.
It felt really good.
That's cool. Well, first of all, I didn't know you're a combat gremlin because you're so good at role play. Like, your character came across so, like, I was so cool. And so to hear that's just interesting. But the rule that Allison's talking about is if you hit an armor class, then you hit it and you deal your damage. Cool. But you don't have roll for damage in DC20. You have a base damage that your weapon does. You have other character features that can add on damage by doing certain things, spending extra mana to do more damage. Certain class features like Barbarian Rage add more damage. But when you hit, you deal your base damage. Every 5 you beat the armor class by, you deal more and more damage, right? And then a critical hit is just 2 more on top of all of that. So it does take out that gray area of, once I know, and everyone eventually knows the armor class of a creature is like, okay, this creature's armor class is 15. So once you roll a 12 or higher, who cares? 12 to 19, like you said, who cares? You hit and you move on. But if you get that 18, wait a second. Plus my modifier. I beat the armor class by 10. Bonus damage. I killed it in 1 hit now instead of So that is cool. That is cool. And you actually played a Scion. And Scions, another little thing I know I haven't said about yet, is Scions' mental attacks don't target armor class, or in this game it's called physical defense. It targets their mental armor class or their mental defense. So you got a bunch against these dumb little goblins and ogres. You got a bunch of heavy and brutal hits because you were targeting their mind stat, which is lower, and you were dealing. I think you had maybe the most brutals. So good job, Combat Gremlin.
Yeah.
Well, and you were toe-to-toe with the ogre, point blank, not moving at all, and there's this huge thing over you, and you're just like, So, props to your boldness there. So, nice, awesome. Matt,
yes.
What was your favorite?
I think that's a good segue into the fact that I am the opposite of a combat gremlin, and combat is both as a DM, GM, and a player. It is kind of the most difficult thing for me to enjoy. As a game master, it's tough because it's so much juggling and depending on the situation. And as a player, it's a lot of, do I know all the mechanics of this and this and this and that? And what I love about DC20, one of the things I really liked about it, is that it truly was the most fun I've ever had in a combat period. And I feel like the reason that is the case is that you are in the process of setting this thing up so that this 4 action point system, right, is it just out of the box. It pushes the players towards collaboration. It pushes them towards being aware. And that's the other thing is like round table 5e. You've got a bunch of players that are kind of, including me, studying their character sheet. I'm not always aware of what. Yeah. You don't really do that, or we didn't do that at least in DC20, because these points could very well need to be happening in other people's turns and at the same time, the aid or help or whatever they all end up being. And I feel like not only is that fun for combat, and it really it's more like a chess game. It's very interactive. It's very cool in that way. It also really promotes role playing, I think, in combat.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Because you are a class that has these tools, and some of the tools really do depend on the help from your friends or being able to help your friends.
Right. Oh, and I remember you saying that at the actual place too. Like, I hate combat, and this was the funnest combat I've ever had. I was like, oh my god, because it is like a necessary evil for some. Like you have to. There's going to be conflict. There's going to be combat and all that kind of stuff. And there is a system for combat that y'all kind of saw, and we're not going to talk about it in this video. This is a top secret one, but another solution for combat to do that, which we talked about off camera. But that's another solution in that same way for people that don't like combat. But even people that don't still could like this because, like you said, the teamwork and collaboration around the board is you have 4 action points. You can spend them off your turn, keeping people a little bit more engaged. And I guess that is one rule that Matt kind of segued into is you have 4 action points instead of 1 action, a bonus that you can maybe, all that kind of stuff. I have done a video on that. I'll put that in the description. But having 4 action points that you can do a bunch of stuff with, possibly with your allies, where Honey the cleric was giving guidance and blessing the scion and helping focus the scion's mind and all this other kind of cool combo stuff. And Matt, you are a warlord, which is all about inspiring your allies and kind of like a battle bard, bolstering people around you and stuff. And it's the cool combos that you and Luke the barbarian did to try and like trip this huge big ogre and jump on his back and all this other kind of stuff y'all were doing. You can interact so customizably too that it's easy to pay attention because you maybe could do something. So that was really cool as well. So the moment that I thought Fitz was going to say,
I'm curious,
and I don't know if Fitz knows what Fitz has no idea, is my favorite moment from besides the big final blow of the whole thing, which that's y'all know. That was Luke's shining moment. If he had to say a favorite thing, probably. But my favorite moment of the whole thing was Fitz swinging in, backflip, landing, mega heal to save Matt, who was on death's door. Yeah, that was crazy for me. I thought that was so cool to see healing magic be used in this way because and I want to get the perspective of the healer doing it because in DC20 when you cast spells you always roll a check for it, and I think that's just a really important thing that I wanted to do is every time you do something, you roll an attack, you roll for casting a spell, you roll to charm the person, you roll whatever, right? So the stage was Matt was at death's door, which is another mechanic we might talk about, but he was basically and when you're at death's door from 0 at 0 hit points, you go on death's door and you only have 1 action. You can barely kind of move around. If you get down to -3, you're straight up dead. I have not talked about that yet. I'll do a video on that, I'm sure. So being at low health is very, very bad. And Matt was at that 0 hit points, and next hit for sure would have just been straight up dead, which would have been interesting in a one-shot playtest to just have you sit there. But hey, oh well.
Suddenly a random other person comes waddling in.
Okay, another character comes out of the bushes.
Just happens to be another warlord, the exact same guy, but it's his cousin.
The exact same build. It's his brother.
His twin brother.
Exactly. Twin too. Yeah, they look the same. Fitz in this moment, playing her cleric, swings down off of a vine, which used 1 action point to kind of do this whole movement thing that she got ready for, and then made a spell check, rolled the dice, rolled super high, added all of her modifiers onto it, and there's a certain DC that all spells have, spells that are like this, and you hit the DC and 1 more and 1 notch up, again, the by 5s thing, and you healed Matt for I think it was 6 health, which is a lot whenever your base health at this level is around 5 or 6. You almost full healed him in this one crazy moment because you rolled so high. Thoughts on that, I guess, Fitz, to put you back on the spot with playing a healer that you roll and the rolls matter towards healing instead of saying, I heal you for this much,
Yeah. Well, I have 2 thoughts because also in that moment, I want to call out and say, use an example from this moment of why you are a great DM and people should emulate you, is that the goblins had a feature where they could swing across the vines and move 8 squares or something like that. And in that moment,
as far as usual,
yeah, I didn't realize that was a feature they had. But in the moment I said, Honey was watching the goblins vine swing. She's dexterity based. And I want her to try to copy that to get to her friend. And you were like, okay, great. You've now unlocked this feature. So gifting your players something in a roleplay moment, giving them a mechanic based on a roleplay moment, that was so incredibly satisfying. So first of all, books.
That is true.
But
But real quick on that, because that actually ties into what Matt said too.
Yeah.
Is maybe because that I'm interested to hear this as well, because whenever I didn't think about the feedback of it's like it allows for more role play, and I was like, okay, that's cool, but like this is another great example of that. I think that really puts a nail on the head of like you're a dexterity base, and you even made the case for this. You're like, okay, well I see the goblins swinging through these vines. I'm like, oh my god, yeah. They have an ability that costs 1 action point that lets them swing from 1 canopy to 8 movement spaces. Like, yeah, of course you can. So then, that's true. That is how Honey was able to get all the way over to where Matt was. So I love it. Yeah, awesome.
So first
Thanks
off,
and
great.
What was the second part?
Yeah, great call as a DM to gift someone based on roleplay. And then the part with the heal, it's the same thing that I loved. At GaryCon, we also played a Dungeon Crawl Classics game, which similarly has a roll chart for spellcasting, and we really enjoyed that. And then when we came to play yours, which was a day or two later, and seeing that you also had incorporated that, I was like, yes, because there is something so satisfying about getting the randomness that martial characters tend to get more often.
Yes.
Right.
Especially if you're a dice goblin, like the whole point is you
true.
want to roll the shiny click clacks, right? The randomness of the dice and being able to have a table that tells you what you get off of that there's something incredibly satisfying from that, rather than just, I run up and I touch cure wounds and I know that's gonna, I'm using a spell slot and then it's gonna do X number of
It's
heal.
always going to be 1d8 plus. Yep.
Whereas this,
100%.
yes, there were thresholds. I think it was DC 10 or something. You get at least one. So even if I rolled under a 10, he would have gotten a little something. But there is the element of surprise if you don't know what you're going to roll. So you get to maybe get, surprise extra heal. And then depending on your positioning, because I think you get extra heal if you're touching versus far away. So there was something nice about not having to have a healing word and a cure wounds. You just have this heal spell, and depending on what you're doing and where, it's going to affect how much you can do. Like, I don't know, it's just more dynamic, and
Dynamic's a great word for it, and that's it's called a dynamic spellcasting because each spell has a ways you can pump more resources into it or do certain unique things with it. So 100% dynamics, great word for that.
Can I say something along that?
Yeah.
Real quick. Another part of that for me, and I don't know if it's going to stick for future versions, but one thing that really stood out to me was there were benefits to actual touch too. So the ability to cast from afar and then to get close up and have touch. What it reminded me of were the sort of malleable older school versions of D&D, where you could turn cure light wounds into cure cause wounds, right? That kind of like the concept of a magic user being able to have this mana, right? Like this stuff that, yes, the spell is the spell and you learn it, but you're a student. You're going to do things differently, slightly differently. You kind of like, I love that kind of ability to change as you go and when you need it.
You just unlocked a little bit of a sneak peek of some stuff here where with the spell system being the way it is, you can have like if a warlocks are choosing some sort of spell that heals, they can twist it to where it steals life or whatever, or certain classes can interact with spells in certain ways, where a cleric that has all these heals, maybe one of their subclasses changes those heals into damage, or they have a certain feature that they steal from a warlock from all the other stuff that they can do. So there's so many cool things you can do with spells because you can twist and change it. But what about the cure wounds touch thing is, I think also in general for healing, I haven't shared this either, is healing is about 1.5 times what damage is at base level, right? Because I always thought it was dumb if the healing's the same as damage, which in D&D damage is actually better than healing usually. It's very inefficient to heal, especially when they're not like knocked out, and it's more efficient to heal whenever somebody's unconscious, which I absolutely hate. But even if you look at them side by side, it's healers just aren't very efficient as far as how much dice they actually heal for.
Yep.
So if the base damage in the game is 2 damage, the base heal in the game is 3 health, right?
Yep.
So for Fitz's spell that she cast, it was a base heal of 3. It's a DC 10. If you hit the DC 10, you heal for 3, which it's a DC 10. You should be able to hit that, no problem. Even if you fail it, though, you still heal for 2. Okay, cool, right? It's not like you can't cast unless you roll a natural 1, which the spell does fail and you do not cast it. Right? It does not cast, right? And I think that low, now the percent chances of that happening is only 5% chance, but the fact that that's there, I think adds a lot of coolness to magic, scariness to healing and low health, and also on the top end of things, there's far more boosts that I give healing with the base being a little bit higher and you being able to roll, like Allison was saying, like the heavy and brutal 5, 10, 15, 20 situation. You can roll real high. And you can also cast, I don't know if this ever occurred to y'all as well, but you can also cast that same spell at level 17 when your modifiers are much higher, and you cast that same spell and you actually beat it by much more. So you heal for more because you beat it, every 5 by more. So
well, that was definitely one of the things that we noticed.
Dynamic magic.
The scalability of it, just across the board, not just with spellcasters, but with Marshall as well. That as things level and where you're going to naturally have padded rolls, the higher level you get, the more that these spells are going to scale really nicely, I think. I mean, obviously we only saw like that first, second level area, but we play. It's not our first time at the rodeo, right? We can see down the road of how these things are going to go.
Oh wait, that means And the
same with
and y'all also only played level 1.
Yep. And the same with the mana points. So we could kind of see where the spells could eventually take us. And we had to be extra cautious with the spellcasters with our mana because we knew we were only going to get it, very, very sparse usages of it, but it was cool to be able to see at higher levels. Man, I'm really going to be able to juice these things, which
right.
even at low level was still somehow satisfying for me.
I was going to say it's more of an opportunity for high risk, high reward as a spellcaster in DC20 than you tend to get in 5e. Yes, there are opportunities for that, but even with a heal, if we go back a minute of your friend is down at 0 hit points and you roll a natural 1 on your heal, I mean, the drama just so good, right? Like there is the high risk, high reward.
Right? I know.
One thing that we get from playing with Matt and Evan is who's not here but needs to be someday. Is that they like stakes. You have to have stakes in this. Yes. That's where the role playing, really comes in. And this just like auto gave so many stakes to absolutely everything we did, from the role playing to the collaboration through the combat and all points in between.
I mean, that's how I found you in the first place. Is your channel was focusing on trying to up stakes of this game that I loved so much, 5e, right? And and just things that I missed. I don't worship at the OSR temple the way a lot of people do. I mean, Dungeon Crawl Classics was so fun to play, but I think that the more modern games like 5e definitely are more accessible to people, definitely get you in the game, and there's so much more focus on role playing in my mind. But yeah, I missed those stakes. I missed I hate the bopping up and down during a combat.
Oh, right.
Well, I love the fear of death.
Matt made me remember. Oh yeah.
Ridiculous.
And that made me remember the death, the fear of death. Kill me. And you, of anyone, of all the playtests that weekend, got the closest to death.
Yep.
I think you went to death's door twice. So the full death's door mechanic, basically, just for context at this point, is whenever you're at whatever health to 1 hit point, sure, you're fine, you're fighting for it. But as soon as you get to 0 health, you are on death's door. -1 health on death's door. -2 health on death's door. -3 permanently dead. Now, asterisk resurrection, etc. That's a whole nother thing. But at -3 health, you are dead. There's no death saving throws. There's no barrier of like, oh, you take all this damage, but you just hit the ground and now you roll for no. From 0 to -2, you're on death's door. -3 dead, 1 hit point, you're okay. But you also gain a stack of exhaustion once you go there as well. And you had a stack of exhaustion for the whole back half of the game.
Yeah,
So
I loved it. I loved it. Yeah.
but that floor of -3 being a hard floor makes healing more important, makes healing more tactical, and staying healthy more. Maybe healing potions can be more tactical. All these different types of things to increase the stakes there. But another thing you said about the 4 action points thing is I think there's also some creativity that can happen with 4 action points where whether it's helping each other with these extra points, or you also, the more you spend points of the same kind, you gain disadvantage, so you don't just want to attack. Like there's more things you can do.
Yeah.
So in the same way, from a dungeon master's point of view, it felt good, and this was something I never even knew until we playtesting, is when a player wants to do something crazy and you're like, actually that's 2 action points, or that's 1 action point,
right,
or that's free, or whatever. You have this flexibility with this 4-point system to just use that one resource instead of this action, bonus action, reaction, 30 feet of movement, whatever. It's like, ooh, yeah, you could do that. It's going to cost you an action point, and you'll make a check for it. Hit a DC 15, and you're going to be able to swing across the thing and whatever.
Yeah.
Right? So, or if it's great role play and it makes sense and you make a good debate that Fitz did, then yes, you have the vine swing ability now.
Okay. Well, bouncing off the 4-point system, right, is that we all know that in 5e, some subclasses and classes are not built well for action economy. Like they don't have great bonus action things, or they have 0 reactions, whatever. And by doing the 4 action points, you're equalizing that across the players more. I mean, one of the biggest call outs, it's why I liked the prime score as well, is between the 4 action points sort of leveling the playing field in combat and being able to choose any ability score as your prime, you're making sure that people can not feel limited. Because if you're someone like an AK who is a combat junkie, right, you might avoid some classes because you feel like you can't fully utilize the action economy and get something in every single, check off all the boxes every single round. Yeah, exactly. Whereas with the 4 action point system, you're doing a lot more reacting in the moment based on how your spending goes, and everybody has...
I never realized that. That's a great point.
A couple of things. One nice thing about death, though, I love that you die at 3. That is super exciting. Though you do one nice thing, though, one fun thing that you do give is if you're down, you do at least that first, you get 1 action point. And that really was fun for me because my character was down, but I'm allowed 1 point, and I took a swipe at this thing that had
You're
just
not unconscious, not playing anymore, and you can't play the game anymore, and your entire turn is 1 death save. No, you have 1 action point. What are you doing? You're making 1 final swing, you moving, where are you going? Yeah, that's a great point. I should have said that. That's very true.
And so what I'm hearing, a couple of... I just thought about this since we've been talking, but Fitz is a professional bassoonist. I'm a recovering full-time musician, and one thing that I would describe DC20 in this form is that it's musical, both with the combination of the math and the numbers and the points, but it's not. It's not math like, oh, I'm afraid of math, I can't play this game. It's worked in. And so when I'm thinking, when I'm saying music, it's like your party becomes an orchestra, and everybody's part is very important, and sometimes you wait, and sometimes you move, and sometimes you play, and you know your parts really, really well. And you're in the process of building this to make it extremely musical. And that's really fun. Would you
I like that. It's very poetic. Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, no.
That's really cool. I like that description of it, because it is, I think of fluid, and I think musical maybe is a better word to describe it, where you can't, even your turns and how you spend action points, and all right, I want to do something with this turn, I'm going to spend 2 points to be able to do this with them when they go.
And you're listening.
They go, and then that happens together, So instead of this, it's my turn.
Yeah.
Later on, it will be your turn. And then we will repeat. Yep. So I love that.
It definitely
Allison,
helps you flex.
It
definitely helps you flex your creativity. I would call it a dance. kind of to that exact, you know, of exact, because, you know, I didn't want to, you don't want to like leave things on the table, right? But you do, so you want to figure out, there's the min-max aspect of it. But one thing that I really loved about it, one thing that I hate in D&D is feeling like I just am doing the same thing turn after turn. And there are certain classes and subclasses.
Because it's the most efficient. I'm going to do this thing.
And so like, you know, as like, so for instance, in our never-ending Barovia game, I play a rogue, arcane trickster, multi-classed into a bard. And so every turn, it's like, am I going to cast a spell or am I going to go stab? And I'm always going to try and do 2-weapon fighting because, of course, I want to get 2 swipes in for 1 turn. But it's boring. It's boring, right? Like, what's my turn? Like, come up, I stab, I run away. And so this, you know, forces you to flex that creative muscle. What you thinking of?
Yeah, well, if you played that type of character in DC20 and you have an Arcane Trickster Rogue, like these are the things I can't wait to like get these out to people, because like an Arcane Trickster Rogue with a Bard, what you could do on your turn with 4 action points, and as a bard you could be helping things and be casting magic, but you only take 2 points to be able to cast magic, and then you can still make that stat. Like, oh man, I just got chills thinking about that character of yours within the framework of DC20, just going nuts with it. And that's so cool.
If I need to bring it into a playtest, she is yours. Just
you know, no problem.
I liked the
invited.
You know, you had asked at the top what our favorite rule was. My favorite part, I didn't really call it a rule, but my favorite part was the kind of, we'll call it forced, but I don't think it was forced, the creativity and the collaboration, right? And so it finds ways to inspire you to come up with something kind of rad on every single turn, rather than just settle for the really, really low-hanging fruit of punch.
And this is the big, I had this during all of this, I had one more moment that I have not talked about yet. It's very, very cool and reaction based, etc., and intertwined with all this stuff, and it has to do with magic. So it's like the one thing that bring it all together is spell duels. And I was me and Fitz, me as the orc shaman at the top of the arena, Fitz as the cleric climbing a pole, casting magic. This evil like nature shaman had this like black purple nature magic, as you, the cleric with most descriptions with like a nature cleric type of vibe. You were trying to cast bless on people to like go out and like help them, and then I had a spell duel with you, and our magics clashed midair, and that was such a cool thing that be able to feel out. Is that we now in general how spell duels work is if someone spends action points, again you have action points, somebody spends action points, you as a caster can also spend action points, so it's fair and balanced, unlike, you know, the D&D reaction counter spell situation. But we can both spend action economy to try and cancel it out midair, and then I think I never succeeded against you. I think you always always won that roll. But this is the fact that you not only won that roll and your magic prevailed and you were able to cast bless and all that kind of stuff, but that's action economy spent on their part too. So it was cool to see like this roll off, this contest of 2 rolls, your magic versus my magic, whose is going to be able to overtake the other, you know. And so that was really cool, because also he was casting a spell. I don't know if y'all realize this. He was casting a spell to try and stop that, to see if he could get his own off, to try and like, you know, combat you in that way. So anyway, it was cool on my end as a dungeon master playing against y'all in a reactionary type way where I can use my resources in the same way too. So
I actually thought about that mechanic when I was watching the D&D movie. At the end, this is a spoiler, but when the 2 big beef hands, I was like, this. It reminded me of that moment in our game where the evil
clashing
and the
magic,
good, you know, and what that would look like and feel like. I was thinking about that.
That's so cool.
It was Voldemort versus Harry Potter's wands.
Checks and
it was. That's even better.
Yeah. Totally. You know, I had forgotten about that moment until you brought it up, which. And I only say that because there were so many amazing moments that, like, the whole game was great, and I think I don't know how I could have forgotten. It was so good, but it speaks to one of the other things that I love about the action point system is that I really wanted to win that duel. I knew that he was going to be casting spells that were to our detriment, and that I was trying to bless my party in this situation. And I knew that like the stakes for that were high. So because of the way that you have the action points and the mana point situation, I just put everything. I used all of my resources to win those battles and get what I wanted. So if the stakes were lower and I was feeling a little bit like, I mean, I'd like for this to happen, but realistically, I'm planning something else on my next turn, then you could kind of just see where the dice
just
fall.
Floating. Who cares?
Yeah. But if it's a moment where you're feeling like, no, this is it. This is the do or die, and I must prevail. Then you could spend all your resources to do it, and you'll probably do so.
Yeah.
Like that. It's one of those of the way that you've set it up. You can kind of give a little oomph when you want to.
And what also another thing that Fitz is talking about with resources is in DC20, if you have something you want to do. In most cases, especially spellcasters, you can pour action points into it to give yourself advantage and stuff, and you can spend more of your resources on things that are very critically important to you. I think Matt one time spent like 3 points to grapple. Like you were just trying to knock someone prone or grapple or something. Oh no, it was prone. Yeah. You're trying to knock, and you spent like your entire turn to try and knock this thing prone, putting every resource into it. So when you have moments as a character for roleplay reasons, for combat reasons, tactics, whatever, that you want to pour resources, like Fitz said, into it, you have the tools to be able to. You have your action points, you have mana, marshals have action points and stamina, and just freaking pour those resources into it and see what happens. And then that also creates stakes because you've had so much resources that you put into this one moment for it to be a big success or not. So 100%. Anyway, yes, with all of that and all of these little sneak peek reveals that you guys have also been poking out of me here, that I will have eventually full videos on and all that kind of stuff. But it was an absolute blast then. It was an absolute blast now to relive it, and just I think I've had a smile on my face this whole time just hearing y'all's perspective of this game that I have put my heart into.
You really have.
To see. And I also say with you guys, the another props to y'all is I love just explaining the rules to y'all. I think the entire time Allison was like glowing of like, as I'm explaining the rules, instead of just like, usually explaining rules is kind of like, okay, yeah, all right, let's just play, let's play, but it was like, oh, and now it actually works this way, and you're like, so it was fun from explaining the rules all the way till y'all killing the big final troll in this big huge final moment and everything. So well done, you guys are awesome, and thanks for coming on the channel.
Yeah,
Thanks for having us.
This is really fun. Yeah, let's play more.
Yeah, let's play. It's obvious there's so much of your heart in this, and it shows.
Yeah.
You made it fun explaining it, and we loved that through the play. Yeah. So thank you.
I can't help it. I was just like, people want to listen to me explain my favorite game that I'm creating. Yeah, come on.
I mean, I know that you want to hear, constructive criticism too, and I know that'll come, Alan. I know it'll come, but. We really did leave the table psyched just because it was a fresh take on this thing that you love, which is 5e. I mean, and then you were like, I want to take that feeling and I want to make it even tighter and better. And I think you're on the way.
Oh, elevator pitch, go for it.
Elevator pitch is, if you play 5e, there is very little friction to getting into DC20. And once you're there, you're going to wonder why you'd ever played 5e before.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Well, and in that perspective, like D&D has 6 attributes, DC20 has 4. You always, when you roll a D20, you add one of those attributes and a skill of some kind. So it's just very, very simple at its core, and it's going to feel familiar, but intuitive is always intuitive and efficient are the kind of the 2 words I try and kind of pair together with that. And now it's also a musical dance. It's a musical dance. Art as well. So, and also, you guys, where can anyone watching this video find you guys? Any sort of socials, podcasts? Me and you, we're about to go do a podcast right now on y'all's
on our channel.
So hit them with some plugs.
You can find us at Bivens Brothers Creative. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch. We go live on
That'll
Thursdays.
Be linked in the description.
Yep. You call Matt and his brother Evan do the Biv Bros Show. Sometimes with some special guests on Thursdays to talk about all manner of nerd things. Matt and I have a podcast.
D&D. Yeah.
Fitz is our lore keeper. It's called ADHD20. You can also find it on the Biv Bros creative channels, where we talk about the intersection of being neurodivergent and tabletop role-playing games. And we're excited to have Alan on for an episode of that.
I'm going to be a guest. So I'll put that link down in the description too. So you guys are awesome. And
We also have a Discord,
I'll
too,
Talk to y'all soon.
Yeah.
That's true. Discord, please
many
join.
things.
Yeah.
Plug away. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go. Awesome. You guys are awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
Later,
for
y'all.
having us.
Yay!
So there you go. That was so much fun talking to them, reliving all the moments. And there's so many other moments that I had even thought about during the conversation that the video would be too long. We could talk about that every single one of them. And there's a lot more to come, a lot more videos to come. So stay tuned to that, and a lot more to come on the alpha release. It's going to be actually releasing really soon here. If not, by the time you're watching this video, it could be live right now. All of the stuff of the alpha and beta of DC20 RPG is fully supported on Patreon. So check that out, and stay tuned for future updates. Stay creative. Think outside the box. Peace.